Well, if most racers understood it, you wouldn't have this show.
Mic drop. Welcome back to the Racer on Demand show. I am Megan with my co-host Amanda, and we have a special guest today. I'm very excited to have on our show Josh Wiese because he is going to bring us a perspective that most racers never get access to. What makes him stand out is that he also used to be a podcast host. He had the sponsored Rider Club podcast, and he spent years interviewing athletes and racers about what sponsorship really looks like from their side. And I was honored to be a guest on the show 2 times.
That's right.
Way back in the day. I think it was like 2018 or something like that.
Yeah, it might have been earlier than that. So you were on episode 52 and 93, which maybe late 17,
even,
early 18, and then 19. I'm not sure, but yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, so almost 10 years, which is crazy to me. But yeah, so that was before I really knew a whole lot about sponsorship or about marketing. I was just getting started back then because 2016 was when I really did my debut in the Top Alcohol Dragster. So we hadn't really ever crossed paths before in person until 2025 PRI show. We just ran into each other completely by accident in the coat check line. So it was so cool to get to see you. And, you know, as soon as I saw you, I was like, hey, we need to get you on our show so you could be able to share your perspective. So in this episode, we are going to be talking about big company budgets, what racers are often competing against without even realizing it. We're going to talk about B2B partnerships. Also, I want to dig into what you have learned over the years, and then how can we take that to see, okay, what are your predictions for the next, 5-10 years, especially when it comes to sponsorships, budgeting, marketing, all that type of stuff. So welcome to the show, Josh.
Thanks.
Very excited to have you here.
Yeah, appreciate it. And it is random, how we kind of ran into each other again. And I think I took about 3 seconds to consider if I wanted to come on your show.
Yeah.
Yes, let's do it. That's exciting. It'd been a little while since I've been on a show, and yeah, it feels good to kind of get back in the seat.
Yeah.
Because Josh, how many episodes did you have? It was quite a few, right?
Yeah, I did 228.
Wow.
Yeah, a few.
Yeah, well, welcome to episode 9.
Yeah, that's right. Episode 9. Oh, it's exciting. I remember getting started as well. And, it was funny. My second episode, I was with Jeff Vanestal. He ran toptopodium.com. And I brought him on, and it was a great show. And what he did was made resumes and websites for racers. He ended up making my website. But show 2, I don't even think I'd released 1 episode yet. Not sure, but it was show 2. And he's like, I want to sponsor you. I said, what? Okay. And he was with me for 227 episodes. He was with me the whole time. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. But that doesn't just happen for everybody out there. Like, that was almost an accident. I picked a good guest, I guess, that lined up with what I was doing. But yeah, so it's been a while. It's been a while since I started, and it's been a while since I stopped.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so I don't think we ever actually covered this, but what encouraged you to start your podcast?
Oh, that's a good question. So I actually started my little side hustle as a charity organization. So I was having people leverage social media and their trail riding experiences to raise funds for different charities. And essentially it was where you say, hey, I rode this many kilometers, this many miles. And I would then create some posts saying, oh, well, all of your funds now, or you raised X number of dollars per mile, we're going to donate that to Warfighter Mate. And I would feature a different one each month. And what happened was I was getting people reaching out to me, sliding into my DMs and saying, hey, sponsor me, bro.
Oh, God.
And I'm like, so it's called Impact Fuel. Impact Fuel. That was the name. It was like impactful with a little spin, nothing to do with actual fuel.
With fuel, yep.
And that's what people were asking me for. Hey, I'm racing this year. I'd like to get some of your fuel to run. Like, you put 0% effort into this. You just
Yes.
read the name and made an assumption. So that, I mean, it was not that infrequent. Enough times where I said, people need help with this. I like, there's something here. And so I pivoted and started the podcast, and that was it.
Interesting.
Oh my
Yeah.
god. I have a similar story when I had not even launched Racer on Demand yet, and I had been just ramping up our socials. I ran our socials for probably 6 months before we launched just to
Mhm.
build up some hype and get some racers onboarded and stuff, and I had a racer reach out to me asking if I would sponsor him, and it took me probably a day of just like, "Oh, how do I approach this? This is
Right.
exactly the person I am here to help," you know? And I
Mhm.
responded back and I was like, "Hey, first off, like, thank you for having the courage to reach out, but," like, if you had done any research, you would know a couple of
Right.
things, one of them being that I have 0 income at this point
Mhm.
because we haven't even launched yet, and secondly, that we're run by a pro race team in the same series you're competing in, so what could you offer
Oh,
me that I can't do myself?
that's hilarious.
Yeah.
And,
Exactly.
and I just kinda like I was like, "I don't mean any offense by this, but I just wanna start pushing you in the right direction," and he's on our platform now and learning,
That's
so
great.
Good. Good.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. So at PRI show, we did the sponsorship 101 session. And I think almost every marketing director that we had on there had the advice for the audience of, you need to actually be a customer first. You need to be able
Yeah.
to like provide a testimonial, or like, have you actually used our products before? Like, did they help you out? Like, do you actually like it? And yeah, I think that people just think like, they see the big shiny object over here and they're like, oh, I'm going to go try to get a sponsor from them without yet doing any research or ever using the products before. And for me, like, I would wanna try it out first just to make sure
Mhm.
it actually works, but yeah, I know I kinda get a couple emails about once a year, I'll get an email, someone, like,
Mhm.
asking me to sponsor them, and I'm like, "I don't like, yeah, I don't really do that," but Oh, but yeah. Okay, so you work at a Fortune 300 company. From your experience, Josh, I just wanna dive right in.
Mhm.
So a lot of time with these racers who are maybe sending out the emails and pitches, asking for sponsorships, a response that we all hear very often is that there's just no budget, there's no room right now. So what does that actually mean from your perspective inside of the company?
Yeah, let me give you some context here. So, or I guess for the audience. So, I've been at this larger company for about 8 years, and I started, I guess, for the first 6-ish years running a proving ground, and that there was other segments that I was responsible for, but one of them was like facilities, and I had safety and some other areas of the business, and that's where I really got into budgets. A lot of management there, but there was a subsection of it that I would devote to marketing and growing another element of our business and experiential dynamic programs, basically bringing customers in and doing cool stuff. And so I learned a lot about how you move budgets around. So, and in the last 2 years, I've been responsible for North American business development, which has a lot of focus on marketing, sponsorship, sales, etc. Similar kind of thing. It's all one big budget, and but there's all these little segments, and call them buckets maybe. So I've gotten very comfortable with moving things around and making decisions, but it becomes really interesting on what that means. So to answer your question, uh, when I was specifically responsible for facilities, I could make a decision to say, hey, if I wanted to bring someone in and let's do content creation, right? That still takes money. I'd need to hire a film crew, maybe pay expenses for someone to come in. And in this case, it was always focused on performance in the light vehicle market. And I literally would have to make the decision: do I want new chairs or do I want this video? you
Yeah.
know, which makes more sense for the business that I'm running. And that is so difficult to convey. If you'd have even asked me that while I was first starting my podcast, which I started my podcast about 2 years before I moved into this automotive space, and I would not have guessed that. I would
Yeah.
not have considered that. And I don't even think I talked about that in my show until, later on. Uh, so that's the most important thing about how these big budgets are managed, is that it may look like there's this just billion-dollar company and they should have all this money. You make $1 billion a year, but how big is that marketing budget? And so you get down to, here's the marketing budget, and then how much of that is already allocated. A year prior, they've already committed to all their sponsorships, all their content, all their social media campaigns, all their trade shows. It's already committed. Like, it's gone. So when something new comes up, someone slides in your DMs, for example, you now have to start making some decisions. Is what you just proposed me more important than those chairs that my employees have been screaming at me for? Or is it more important than this trade show that we're committed to, or this vehicle build that we're doing? Um, it's interesting, and you got to kind of get in that mindset, when you start talking to some of these companies, big or small.
Yeah, I think too, like, you're talking about trade shows, chairs, those kinds of things. You're also competing against internal headcount.
That's true.
If I were to walk up to you, Josh, and say, "Hey, can you sponsor our race team for $60,000?" Well, for $60,000, you could have somebody work full time for a year in a lot of
Yeah.
roles. And am I providing enough value that I'm more valuable than somebody who's working
Mhm.
full time in a role?
That's a great point, because you're right. It's the same budget. So if I hire a social media specialist, or if I give you, $60,000 or whatever that is, which one's going to get me more sales? That's really what it comes down to. It's which one's going to drive more sales for me. And
Mhm.
that's tough. That's tough. And you'll see it go both ways, right?
Yeah.
Companies will find a brand or a race team that fits with their values, and they have a great audience. They're really good with content. They understand the business, and they'll find the social media specialist or whatever other, marketing associate, something like that, that they also fit well and make it happen. So you've got to convince them, to your exact point, that it's better off going with you. You're gonna be able to make more connections, get more views, improve the image more than somebody else internally might be able to do.
Yeah. Do you think that most racers understand that, or do you think that that's a tough thing for them to grasp?
Well, if most racers understood it, you wouldn't have this show, right? And I wouldn't
Mm.
have done my
Mic
podcast.
drop.
Yeah, it's it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's just, how would you know it? I mean,
Mhm.
I mentioned
Mhm.
before, I did a show for a couple of years before I really started understanding that, because you just don't know. And you shouldn't be expected to know without doing your research, doing your studying, listening to shows like this, reading books. I know I'll recommend one. This is by Alex
Oh my
Stryler.
gosh.
Yeah, I got it right there.
Yeah.
Yes.
So motorsports marketing and sponsorship. Oddly enough, this was kind of what I used to say on my show that I did, not knowing at first that this book existed. But uh, yeah, Alex Stryler, he does this too. And read
Mhm.
the book. Get this book and read it. I'm gonna send that back over here. There's no way I'm getting that back in that little bookshelf without messing
Not
something up.
gracefully.
Uh, but yeah, you have to put that effort in, and that's grassroots. That's top level. They're all doing the research to figure out what these companies are, how they operate, etc.
I'm going to plug that book too because I cannot stress enough. People
Yeah.
ask us all the time how we grew our race program. It started with that book. Chris ordered the book,
Hmm.
and Chris is not a person who has the attention span to read through a book, but he read through the book. I think that's like
Hmm.
one
The
of maybe
first.
2 books that he's read while I've known him. But he read through the book and he said, "Wow, this changes everything." And
Sure.
that is what completely transformed our entire race program.
That's
So,
awesome.
And it's
cannot
only
stress that.
200-ish pages. They got definitions in here, which is cool. There are some pictures. Well, there are little pictures, right? It's not all words. But it's an easy read, and it's very, very helpful.
We have a shortened version on racerondemand.us that is on sale for $2.99 as an ebook.
Oh,
So
very good.
it is there. Just go get it. It is a simple, easy read.
Yeah,
Yeah,
shameless
that's
plug.
great. Shameless plug. But
Yeah.
it really works. And I think going back to your question, do most racers understand that? No, and they might not be expected to. Now, as you climb different levels, you'll start seeing that come into play. So I'll use the example, Amanda, with you and Chris. So through I ran into Megan at PRI, and then through my company, we've got some products that we're doing voice of the customer on, basically motorsports connectors that right now they're Formula One, MotoGP, some other higher end racing programs. They're not in off road. And, I wanted to start getting some information about how these connectors might fit in the off-road space, starting with kind of that short course off-road. And, you were on, Amanda, obviously you have that background that you do the show as well. But, Chris stepped on and he's very technical. He can talk through all of the details about how these connectors might work, how they might not
Thank
work.
God, because I
Yeah.
could not.
Yeah. He did
Yeah.
great. Right. But he was also using all of the terms, right, about, business to business marketing and connections. And, um, it was obvious that he had done his research on not only these products, because he had read up on the products beforehand and he had some, base level questions. But I was like, this is just the same as I would expect if I was talking to somebody else internally that is aware of how our marketing or sales budgets work. And so that makes a difference. And you'll notice this as you talk to, different racers, and you start with the sponsor me bro, right? That I use that all the time, sponsor me bro, to someone who's able to communicate. And even just get this book at the end, there's a glossary that tells you some of these base level things. ROI, return on investment, great. There's, let's see, RFP, request for proposal, right? There's a lot of these little things that if you can just pick up some of the language,
Hmm. I
it
think
helps a
too,
ton.
like a lot of people think that this is like something unique to sponsorship, right? You have to learn this sponsorship language and the sponsorship processes. This is not sponsorship language and it's not sponsorship processes. This is the process of hiring a contractor for any job in any kind of function at a business. Like you
Hmm.
have
Mhm.
to talk the language, you have to understand the business, you have to understand the problems, and then you have to turn around and submit a proposal to solve that problem. Like
Right.
that's just how a contractor works, and all you're
Mhm.
doing is learning how to run a business.
Well, and circling back again to your question, do racers know that? Let's assume you don't, right? You haven't listened to these shows yet. You have a conversation with somebody. Even if you don't know all the terminology, just ask the question, what are you looking for?
Mhm.
What do you need from me? They
Mhm.
might just say, I want more clicks, right? I want you to generate content and I just want people to go to a website. That's it. Trying to get that up. I'm pretty confident once they get there, 5% of the people are going to make a purchase. I just need to get them there. Or
Mhm.
they
Mhm.
might say, this is an interesting one, right? Which I know we plan on talking about anyways. They might say, I don't care necessarily right now about getting to the end customer. I want to get to other businesses that already sponsor you. I want to be connected to them for whatever reason. Maybe we have complementary products. Maybe they are a customer themselves. I would like to be able to sell to them, or maybe they're a supplier and I want to build a relationship better. There are these other avenues that you might not know yet until you ask that question. So if you don't know, you just ask, what is it they're looking for? What's your goals as a business?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it really could be that simple. But I mean, I love how you explained it, Amanda, that it's like you are a contractor, like you're just trying to get this job or like this position.
Mhm.
And I think sometimes racers might not have that business acumen because they've never run their own business or
Hmm.
the company they work for, they probably don't have, make those decisions and all that. So they don't see that side of it sometimes, and I think they're just still stuck in the old ways of, "Well, I'm just gonna slap a logo on my car, and I'm gonna get you some more
Hmm.
exposure," and it's like, "Isn't that good enough?" And it's It's not, right? I mean, from
No.
my experience. And so, yeah, so like you need to kind of put yourself as a racer, put yourself in their shoes of, yeah, like, how can I help out this company? And if you don't know, you can just ask. And it really could be that simple. Um,
Mhm.
but I think sometimes racers don't understand that they can offer more value than just exposure.
Mhm.
It could be their other connections. It could be lead generation to get more people to go to their website.
Mhm.
There's so many different avenues that could be valuable. So from your experience, Josh, what are some ways that have been valuable to you when your company has worked with racers? But then also kind of to, be on the other side of that coin, how could they lose that trust because maybe
Yeah.
they don't follow through with it, or, they underdeliver, or, maybe something else could happen there.
One thing that is interesting, I had made a connection through my show with we'll call it Dr. Death Wobble. That's who he's known by in the community. And he's got a repair shop in Michigan, but he does content. He makes SEMA builds, and I had reached out to him because I knew the type of builds he did at SEMA, and I wanted some ideas and some support on how my company might do an upcoming build. And I thought it was going to be more like, oh yeah, maybe send me some parts. I'll put it on my vehicle. We'll put the logo. That's kind of what I was expecting him originally to go towards. But he was like, hold on, why don't you come out to my shop? Let's do a quick tour. I want you to meet some of the folks. I want to show you some of the builds. And then let's sit down and talk about how I may be able to help you, essentially get sponsorships from other companies and help you with this build. So instead of you footing the entire bill, I mean, some of these even simpler builds, you're talking 150 grand plus for
Mhm.
just a demo vehicle or, show vehicle. And this is not bare minimum, but it's pretty lower on the spectrum budget wise. And he was
Mhm.
like, hey, why don't you call up Ford? And because I know that they have a couple programs, they've sponsored me on it before. So start with them and, start calling up other people like, you know, axle manufacturers or brake companies or transmission builders and build it that way. And that was a whole nother experience. And he's not a racer, but he's an influencer, right? That's how he drives his own business, and he essentially serves as a marketing contractor or marketing firm. But we took that idea and we essentially did it. We cut the price of the build down by about half, which opened up money for more events and other ways to actually show off the vehicle. So that was one example that kind of had caught me off guard, something I wasn't expecting. But it comes down to that mindset of uh, this isn't just a sponsorship conversation; it's also what else can I do for you? Yeah, so that was one. Now I probably have a few more there, but I want to make sure I don't miss or go over the comment about how can you lose trust.
Yeah.
It's super easy, especially with social media, right? And
Yeah.
the ability to go viral for things that are not, you know, that big of a deal originally, but they blow up into something else. So, you can build a relationship over 15 years and lose it in 15 minutes. That's like a classic kind of saying. And, I had an example of one where they weren't already with us, but they were under consideration. So, it was a prominent influencer in the automotive performance space. And, I met him at a trade show, and got to talking and say, hey, you know what? It'd be great if you come out to our facility. We have proving grounds. Love you to do some content, get one of our vehicles, do some burnouts, whatever it may be, something that's cool. And, you can promote your show, get content, you can promote us at the same time. And great, let's talk more. Well, we started digging in a little bit later and said, well, this person actually had kind of a checkered past. It wasn't necessarily this crazy, terrible thing, but it didn't fit with our brand. Right. And we
Mhm.
knew that at some point, someone's going to Google that and see, company A and influencer B, and say, oh, well, that's who they work with. Interesting. So in that case, we just stopped the talks, right? And that happens a lot of times. You think of even in the professional sports space. So someone in, say, NFL, they may be sponsored by Nike, and they do something. They kick a dog. I don't know what it is. They do something that's like egregious, and then all of a sudden, Nike drops their sponsorship. There's 5 million a year gone, whatever it may be. And those little things can just come out of nowhere. You make an offhanded comment in a podcast. You're doing a little behind the scenes video, and you say something that, whatever it may be, is just off putting. So you could lose that super quick, or you can prevent something from happening. Every single one of these companies, even the smaller ones, they're gonna at least Google your name. They're gonna go see, Facebook. They're gonna go see Instagram. The Instagram is probably one of the bigger ones that I've seen in the racing space. That's if you have a good following there and post content there, I think that's one of your stronger areas. And then LinkedIn would be another one that we can probably spend another podcast talking about. But if you have a presence on there, in your history, you posted things that are just don't align with certain brands, or maybe they're a little out there, you might not pick up a sponsorship for that reason. And I'm just going to get right to this point too. If you want to post crazy stuff on social media, that's fine, right? You're allowed to do that. If you want to get a sponsorship at the same time, it might not work. Okay. So I recommend, if you want to get out there, use an alternate name, for your private one. So instead of Megan Meyer's account, it could be, Jane Doe's account. It's something of that nature, where you're still getting whatever your message is out there, and even though it might not align with your normal brand image. So you can separate those two, and that's perfectly fine, right? I think that's another way to kind of get around that, if you really want to have your own voice out there and not worry about the branding as much.
Yeah, we had a run in. We got a cease and desist letter from a partner a few years ago. And what was really interesting about it was, like, Chris is the face of our team. He is really the account that people follow. If you're looking for VD racing stuff, it's either on our VD racing page or Chris's page. That's really the two places you'd look.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, one of our team members had shared a political post that one of the brands that we worked with didn't agree with. And it wasn't even Chris, it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
even me. It was one of our team members that caused this cease and desist letter to come out. So, like, you have to be super aware that your brand extends beyond, you or the face of your team. It extends out to your entire team. We do have a joke now, though, because before the cease and desist letter came out, they sent us a bunch of t-shirts. And
Oh yeah.
now when the team goes out at the races, they wear the t-shirts. That's their going out shirts, so that if they get rowdy, they're not associated with BDE racing, which is hilarious because most of our team doesn't even drink and they don't actually get rowdy. So it's
Uh-huh.
just a joke at this point. But yeah.
I have two other examples I want to share. I know we're hitting a lot of the negative points here, so I promise afterward we'll
We're
Yeah.
gonna
get to
bring the
something
vibe up.
a little bit more positive. But it is important to know what not to do as well. But one example, it was somebody that had sponsored my podcast. I won't say the company, but I can tell you people that it's not, right? Pretty much, if you go on to my website or view any of my shows that's still out there, they weren't involved. So like MBRP, no. HMK, no. Amsoil, no. 40 Parts, no. Top the Podium, no. High Octane Coffee, no. Crash Ag Industries, no. But there's another one out there that isn't on any of my content anymore. And I was working with them, and they were saying all the right things. So yeah, I was pumped. I was like, I can't wait to work with this group. That this is the owner just seems like they get it. And so they came on as a sponsor for me. So in this case, right, I'm the one that's receiving the benefits. I am the contractor, right? I am the one doing the work. This is my client. And what ended up happening was, it was like, I don't know, month one, month two, whatever it was, they just didn't pay me. I thought, look, that's fine. Things happen, right? And, I reached out, and all of a sudden they were getting harder to get a hold with. Well, get a hold of. Around a similar time, I had connected them with one of my racer friends, and same thing. They had promised her a bunch of amazing stuff, right? Going to buy as much as buying a car, a race car. And literally on the way where she was going to go pick up this car that allegedly, they were going to, I don't know if it was a refunder for, whatever it was. Uh, I find out that this person is basically a scam artist. So their name was not their name. And, if you go and look back in history, they had different names and they were known for being a scam artist. So they were never going to pay me. They were never going to buy this car for her. And she was literally on like a 6-hour drive to go pick it up. And I was like, ring, 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 turn around right now. And,
Wow.
I didn't know that. Now, did I do my research up front? No, I didn't. I was like super excited. Some new sponsor came on board. They look cool. This is awesome. Then you find out a lot more behind the scenes. So I went out, I did a public apology saying, hey, we're not associated with this brand anymore. I'm sorry for anybody who may have connected with them if I, led you astray. All of those things to kind of back out of that. And I went back through and scrubbed my social media and made sure that they were no longer, like their icon wasn't on my shows or on my website. And yeah, that was one of those moments that just, it was the reverse, right? And I had to kind of cut them out. And yeah, that does happen. It does happen. Uh, yeah, I had another example too, which was game changing and amazing. I can't remember it now. Uh, so I don't know. Maybe I'll think of it later. But there was another one. I just can't quite remember it anymore.
Another blooper reel for this episode.
That's right. That's right. I did watch your latest blooper reel, and it was funny. It's
Yeah.
good.
That whole episode, Megan and I, we were like, well, that's going in the blooper reel. We're
Yes,
both just flubbing the entire
that's right.
time.
That's right. Um,
Oh, man. Well, we've talked a lot about like the budgets in a business. And, to Megan's point, racers hear all the time, there's no budget. There's no budget. If a racer listens to this podcast, they get the understanding that there are budgets in silos, right? And that each of those buckets is kind of allocated in a different way, maybe spoken for over here, spoken for over there.
mhm.
How do you think they could shift their approach towards building a relationship with maybe like the sales team instead of the marketing team or something like that?
Yeah, it's very true that these buckets exist, and even though they may have this huge budget, like we said earlier, it's accounted for most likely. And I'll start by just saying, there are better times to approach some of the larger companies. Uh, we'll get into smaller companies, I think, in a little bit later because there's a different approach. But if you come up to somebody in September or October and asking for a sponsorship, it may be too late. They've likely already set their budget for the following year. So August and maybe early September for someone who has a fiscal year ending in December, that's probably your best time. One. The second would be early to mid December, because what happens at some of these big companies, if you don't use it, you lose it. So Red Bull is an example of this, right? Red Bull's brand is we go crazy. Like, this is what you do, is you do crazy stuff. And I used to know someone who was a leader in their marketing group, and he said, he would get yelled at, not really, but like he would get talked to if he was under budget. It's like, why haven't you spent all the budget that we gave you? Because we do crazy things. Are you telling me you didn't do it crazy enough? And so it's the end of the year, and they're like, they may be looking for something last minute to get things going. And my company does that. Even my previous companies that weren't involved in sponsorships, same thing happens. You committed to something, and if you didn't follow through on it, and you may need to figure out another way to spend that money. So another good time to approach could be early December or mid December for most companies. But to your point, what else can you do, right? Who else can you get in touch with? don't be afraid to start either small or not at all, meaning prove yourself, make some connections, do some soft introductions, whatever it may be, without asking for the money yet. So let's just say time frame wise, it is October, right? And they say, "Oh, we just don't have any money." That's fine. That's fine. What if, anyways? Um, I'll promote a couple of your posts, or I'm going to this trade show or this race. I'm just going to bring you up a few times, something like that. I'm going to pass your name along just because I think it would be good for our relationship. So you can start doing some of those things, engage with all of their posts, comment on them. All of those things help boost engagement, and it gets you more, in their mindset, right? That they start remembering you, like, oh, I remember Megan and Amanda. They just keep showing up. Like, why are they're just everywhere? I can't ignore that anymore. Um, so that
Probably
is one
true.
way. That's right. That's one way to help. And then also you mentioned sales. If you have a contact with someone, let's say in sales, that doesn't necessarily make the sponsorship decisions, but you can still help them. Like, oh, you know what? I can introduce you to this other company that I think would buy your products. All I'm going to do is I'm going to send out an email and I'm going to say, hey, company A, I think company B would be a good fit for you. I've been following their stuff for years. I actually use some of their stuff. I think you all should talk. So, Susie and Bob, I want you both to connect and just take it from there. Completely free for you to do. Now it does cost time, right? This may be, a 20 to 30 minute allocation of your time, but it makes a difference. You haven't gotten any money yet. The salesperson that is now, they want to help you. They want to return that favor. So they go to their sponsorship group, whoever makes those decisions, and say, hey, Amanda has been really doing really good with this. And I think you should consider sponsoring. Oh, guess what? Now it's November, December. Oh, we actually do have some budget left. Yeah, so I'm gonna send them some product, or I'm gonna do something for them, um, just because at this point. Uh, so that is another way of doing it and building that trust, getting those connections.
One of the things that you kind of talked about is that calendar year. Like, when in the year are you approaching people about this? And I think a lot of racers get caught up in the fact that, like, what you're talking about, this budget cycle is something they need to focus on for 1 year. But
Mhm.
realistically, like, if I'm talking to a company right now and they know that for 2026's budget, they don't have room for me, that doesn't mean that I can't be talking to them about 2027's budget.
That's right.
Hmm.
And, like, if I'm doing these little things to build these connections and give them little pieces of value without it being like a huge undertaking for me in 2026, I can be doing those things and having the conversation of, "Hey, when budgets come up in 2027, I'd be really interested in leaning in more, helping you guys out
Yep.
more, and building our partnership?" And that's something I see a lot, is racers just going, "Oh, I missed it this year. It's done. It's over. I
Done.
can't do it?"
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have an example of that I'll share. Um, this was actually so Gunnar Stern. He is a sponsored by Red Bull, snowmobile racer. He was on episode 183 of my show, and getting sponsored by Red Bull is a big deal. They're one of the elite brands. They're in Formula One, and that's a big deal, and that's difficult. And he actually, it took him like 5 years, I think, to get to that point. So he started by making some connections early on, and it was like 2 years later of just trying to make a connection, getting nowhere with Red Bull, absolutely nowhere. And then it was like his sister or his cousin ended up getting um, not a job there, but I think she was selling pretzels to some vendor that also sold Red Bull. I honestly, I can't remember the exact connection, but she somehow made a connection with someone that had influence at Red Bull through those pretzels, and basically said, "Hey, you should check out Gunner. He's cool. He's awesome." And then it was 3 years later, he was sponsored by Red Bull. So it started by that little thing, but he stuck in it for 5 years. Now, at the same point, he's improving his racing program. He's getting more of a social media following. He's winning more races. It all kind of adds up, but it's one of those things where you say he's lucky. Luck is where opportunity meets hard work. So he got this opportunity through his cousin with pretzels. But it ultimately, he had all the hard work. He took the right shot at the right time, and sponsored by Red Bull, which is amazing. So I think that's a really good example of kind of hanging in there. Now, I have a personal example because I'm in sales. Business development includes a whole bunch of things, but sales is a big factor. And I had a deal. It took 5 years to make happen. And I remember doing the first pitch on it, and it went over so well. I was like, done, right? And they loved it. And then they come back and say, we just don't have the budget, for this year. Got it. Next year, same thing. Hey, just checking in. How are things going? Do you need anything from me? We went to some of their events and kind of, just stayed in contact. Took 5 years though. And eventually they came on board, signed a 3-year deal. And I took 5 years to get there, which is just, that's how you got to think. That's how you got to think. So
Yeah. Sponsorship is a long-term game. And kind of going back to what you said, Amanda, I think sometimes racers, because I know like I did this too, like you just kind of assume that the company, whoever you spoke to, like they're going to remember you in a year or in 6 months when they start talking about their budgets. And they probably talk to hundreds of racers all the time. And so you need to maintain that relationship, stay connected with them, and yeah, just reach out to them every once in a while and just be like, hey, how are you? How's it going? Here's a reminder, invite them out to your races. Like getting them to the track, I think is a big game changer too. But yeah, I want to stay on the topic of these business to business partnerships because I feel like that is something we don't see it really happening because it's all behind the scenes. And B2B partnerships, they don't really require you to advertise for them or put a big wrap on the car and big logos because that's not the value for them. It's the networking and the relationships and helping them find new distributors or warehouses or retailers and all that. So I want to talk about that a little bit more. And then also, how could racers kind of, expand on that? So kind of talking about Alex Stryler, I don't know if he has this in his book, but he shares the story all the time about a company, a racer got sponsored by Toyota, I believe. And this was years ago, but because Toyota saw that there was another company, I think it might have been Geico or Progressive or something like that. They were working with the racer in the series, and Toyota was like, well, I want to work with that company. So I'm going to sponsor this racer to put me in touch and make that connection. So from your experience, where you're working at and also with your podcast, what are some other examples you've seen of B2B partnerships?
yeah, I've got one that I'll start with. So Brian Smith, he's the CEO at formerly Ford Performance Racing School and now rebranded to Wheelhouse. I ran into him at PRI, which it's a hot spot for this type of conversation. But I ran into a PRI, and he was talking to me a little bit about his rebranding and some of the efforts he's going after. I'd been working with him for years because part of Ford Performance Racing School is driver training, driver maintenance. And when I say driver maintenance, that's keeping your skills up. And they work out of 2 different locations. One, Charlotte Motor Speedway, and then also out in Utah, they have a pretty large facility, and they would do like the Raptor R experience programs, and then they would do like GT500 or Dark Horse experience programs out of Charlotte. And I was talking to him. He said, "Hey, we're working on rebranding to Wheelhouse because we want to make sure that we're open to other customers, right? We're not just with Ford, but they're huge to us, right? But we want to start broadening our reach, and we want to get deeper into off-road space. Like, UTVs are getting very large. That's actually, I'm going to be at the Mint 400, which today that we're recording is the 15th. This will probably release before the Mint, I think.
Mhm. Yep.
But so at this time, I've already been, not sure, but so I'm going to the Mint 400 because I'm also looking to get product into UTVs. And so I was talking to him. He said, "Yeah, it would be great if I could get connected with one of the other big UTV companies, because my facility has a lot to offer them. We've been focused on these other off-road programs, but always in the bigger trucks. What can we do with these other businesses to promote their brands?" And so he reached out to me after the show and said, "Hey, you've got some connections to your podcast or maybe with your work. Can you help me with this?" And of course, like, why wouldn't I? They've been great to us for I don't know how many years with this driver training program. And he's just a cool guy, super nice. And I said, "Yeah, let's make some connections." So I have two of them kind of in the works right now, but one of them, a large ETB company, someone who used to work there, is like, "Yeah, maybe I can make a connection." But I'm like, at this point, we're trying to get big UTV company connected with, this other business, Wheelhouse. But in the middle, I'm just facilitating conversations and making connections. But that's what he was looking for,
Mhm.
from me to help out. And even with the show, right? Part of me bringing this up is another opportunity to help him make those connections because he has a lot to offer. So, but with that said, I just got off the phone, I don't even know, 2 days ago, yesterday, with Matt Martelli, and part of what he does is runs the Mint 400. And I said, "Hey, you know what?" Called Brian up afterwards. "You might want to go there and just walk around because you may start seeing the things you want to see." And he's like, "Oh, guess what? We're also sponsoring one of their trucks, one of the race vehicles." I was like, "Perfect. That's cool." So, but that's what he wanted, right? He wanted to make the connections with other businesses. And if you would have called up Wheelhouse and said, "Hey, I want you to sponsor me to help you make sales," he's like, "Make sales to who?" Right? He wants to make
Mhm.
sales to other businesses. Similar, when I was talking to Matt with my company, I'm asking about what would a booth look like, what types of what could I expect from the event to promote our brand. And he's like, "Oh, the other businesses there are great for you." So he's like, "Booth or not, come on over. I'll go and let you shake some hands, at least walk around and see what other companies are there." And from my standpoint, I want to see a couple things from that. Uh, One, I want to see, are any of my competitors there? If so, what are they doing? And then,
Good point.
are there other, right? Oh, it's a big one. Uh, are there distributors that I can sell product through that are there? Or are there other companies I can partner with on future builds? Or just if there's complementary products where we can promote each other and it makes sense. Um, that's what I want out of the Mint. That's what I am looking for. And but Matt, being the business person he is, he's helping me with this. Like, I mentioned some things. He's like, "Oh yeah, this is perfect. You got to be at the Mint." And I even brought up another race. I was like, "Well, I'm thinking about these ones, within his scope." And he's like, "You should start with the Mint, right? Feel that out. It's a spectator opportunity. Some of these other big races are not, and that's in desert racing, that is. And start with the Mint, feel it out from there." So he basically said, you know, "I'm going to help you make connections with businesses, and I don't want you to dive in too fast until you know this is going to work for you." I'm like,
Mhm.
"Perfect. That's great." So that was a long-winded answer there, but two examples I think that
Yeah.
were valid.
Yeah. No, I think that kind of hits on I mean, we were talking about at a race, but at a trade show, that's kind of the similar reasons you're at a trade show, right? Which was the next thing I was going to ask you about. So instead, I'm going to pivot. Our audience is mostly grassroots racers who are
Mhm.
kind of maybe not even that well connected with some of the companies that we typically think of when we're talking about
Mhm.
sponsoring racers, right? We don't have people signed on with us that are Red Bull sponsored and looking to figure out how this works. They
Mhm.
already know how that works if they're working with those kinds of companies. So the grassroots racers that are listening to our podcast, how can they leverage B2B connections?
That's a good one. And you got to look around your community, start local. You get to the decision maker right away. Let's say it's a 10-person company, 6-person company. You can get to the decision maker immediately, like the owner of the company. Um, and I'll use an example. My dad ran a lawn care company for 27 years. He was my first sponsor for anything I did because he's dad.
Yep.
That's just what he is. He wasn't in it for anything. He was just like, you just need to do this. But what it was interesting, right? Him being a lawn care company, and I didn't do this at the time because I wasn't that smart. But if you go to a lawn care company and say, "Hey, I'd like to work with you on this. I've got this new race team I'm building. I'm doing some short course UTV stuff, just kind of getting into it. I think I can help you make some other connection because I've also been talking to this lawn and garden company down the road, and they're selling feed, they're selling fertilizer, they're selling commercial tractors, whatever it may be. If you two are both on the car at the same time, they're excited because they may want to work with you, but now can we work some discounts between the two of you? Can we start allowing you two to work together, build a partnership there? That's a whole nother thing. The lawn care company that's going to buy the fertilizer, the tractor, I can help you get a lower price on that. Let's say you give me $100, I'm going to save you $100 or $200 immediately.
Yes.
And then, hey, this company, the tractor supplier, whoever that may be, the lawn and garden shop, I'm going to get you another customer. They're going to buy 2 tractors in the next year. All you need to do is give them a smaller discount, and then give me some of that money, and both of you are going to make double of what your investment is on my vehicle. I'm going to promote both your brands locally. I'm going to bring my UTV to your lawn and garden shop, and we're going to do a little event. I'll grill some hot dogs for you. People can come look at it, and that's it. Just bring them in, and they can look at my thing. They can sit in it. Maybe I'll start it up every now and then. That's it.
Yeah. You know what I really love about that is I feel like a lot of racers get stuck in product discount land instead of I'm getting a paid partnership land.
Mhm.
And what you're describing, if a company is giving you a product discount, it's because they want you to buy their product, right? So
Mhm.
if you can come to them and say, I have a guaranteed sale, would you be willing to extend this product discount to this company instead of me?
Mhm.
They're going to buy a lot more product. And in return, you can just give me a lump sum, for the year
Right.
of being my partner because I'm making this valuable connection for you. They're going to come out ahead
Right.
because they are making way more sales than you ever would have bought from them. If
Right.
they're already giving you the discount, they already have that margin worked into that. So they don't mind selling at that price,
Right. Right. And there's nothing wrong with, getting a discount. It's very popular. Companies are very comfortable doing that. Some of my sponsorships, it was the same thing that I had through my podcast. So they would give me a discount, I'd promote. Um, there's nothing wrong with that for sure. But what you just brought up it's a whole nother level, and they might not even expect it.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I definitely want to say is if you do that, get a discount code, especially if they have an e-commerce site where they can buy it. Use your custom discount code, Megan 10, and they type it in, and then every sale that, is made using Megan 10 comes back. And then you can find out, oh, well, Megan alone in the last month generated $3,000 worth of sale. If she can do that over and over, I'll give her $500. Why not?
hmm
That's a
Yeah.
huge return.
Yeah, it's just like having an affiliate link.
Mhm.
And companies nowadays, there's so many ambassadors and influencers out there. I mean, in every industry, not just motorsports. And that's an easy way for companies to see, hey, Megan or Amanda, like they sold this amount of product, and then you get, a commission from it. But I think for racers, we can think outside of the box and change that mindset of, instead of like, hey, I'm just trying to promote this for me, it's a lot of social media or email
Hmm.
marketing. Like I'm trying to get my fans and my audience to buy these consumer products from these companies that I'm an affiliate for. But, like I can take like Gunk for an example.
Hmm.
I could go to businesses and kind of pitch it the same way, but have more of that business strategy behind it of,
Mhm.
and also with businesses, they're going to buy a lot larger volume. They might buy a whole pallet of Brake Clean instead of one case that I'm trying to sell to my race fans. And,
Right.
it's kind of the same amount of effort and energy as far as marketing this and trying to advertise and but to me I'm pitching to other brands and not to consumers, and I
Mhm.
think that that's just like it unlocks a whole next level of sponsorships, and it can be exciting because maybe you only need to find one or two businesses instead of trying to pitch, trying to sell 100 times to spectators.
Uh-huh.
And and yeah, like that commission or that affiliate could be a lot higher for you in exchange for that. And so that is something that I am working on as we speak. And I'm
Hmm.
really excited about that because yeah, like you never know what could happen. And it is unlimited, you know, potential and possibility there. And I think kind of back talking to what you had said earlier about like the different budgets and the different buckets that they're in. Well, maybe if I'm able to, find some other companies that could be more in the sales department, and how could we
Mhm.
then
Yeah.
work with the sales team to kind of come up with something that could be fun to do together, you know, kind of work more with them as far as that like sponsorship budget instead of just, hey, let me just advertise and give you exposure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I think yeah, thinking outside the box with it, it can be really fun. And like I said, it's more behind the scenes. That's not what a lot of people talk about, but I think that's where a lot of the big budgets come into play with motorsports and or with any type of sponsorships, really.
And I'm
Yeah.
I'm gonna hop in here and maybe be devil's advocate because I hate affiliate links. I
Yeah.
hate the discount codes that tie back to a racer, and I will tell you why. It is because then we go from being a business partner at a
Right.
strategic
Mhm.
level where we can get paid for our impact, and instead we become a salesperson that is completely limited by how
Yeah.
many codes we can get out
That's
there. And I
fair.
will tell you, as a racer, you will never get paid enough to float your program if you aren't at that strategic partner level. And if
Yep.
you're stuck at salesperson level, as soon as you sell to all the people you know, then you're no longer valuable to that company. But
Mm.
if you're
Yeah.
thinking at that strategic partner level, how can I link these businesses
Mhm.
together for ongoing support, ongoing purchasing from each other? Then that puts you back at that strategic partner level. You're having a bigger impact for a longer period of time, and you're more valuable to that company because of that. So I will tell you, our race program, we've had a couple where they're like, hey, here's a code, like let's
Yep.
link that back to your performance. But my performance, Chris's performance is not linked to sales, it's linked to influence, brand alignment, and those kind of things.
That last point I think rounds it all out because it may come down to what that sponsor really is looking for, because that's a big thing with businesses is they'll have a marketing budget, but if they can't find the correlation to what you did and to an
Mhm.
increase in sales,
Yes.
they have to make a decision. What drove this and what didn't drive this, and if they can't make a connection back to you,
Mm-hmm.
then you get cut from the program. Now,
Yes.
so the affiliate links can help with that, but your point is spot on in that. Well, if that doesn't work for what you ultimately want to bring to the table, maybe that's just a starting point. You have to be clear up front. I'm going to start with this, but I want to go well beyond that, right? I want to
Mhm.
go well
Mm-hmm.
beyond that, and uh, but I think if you come in with the strategic mindset, then you can definitely make it work. But no matter what, you got to figure out some way to connect the two.
Yes.
What you did to sales. So, Megan, you had brought up Gunk, right? And, we've been talking about B2B, and I gave the example of like the lawn and garden place, and then the consumer of that being, a lawn care company. If you took gunk and you were also with a distributor of gunk or a retail provider, right, for gunk, and they're both, on your car or, on your website, wherever it may be. And if you had now a way to say, okay, for every sale that you make to them that I transacted, $1 million, making up some crazy number, they did $1 million. I facilitated that sale. And you can take your own notes on it, whatever it may be, or maybe your sales rep is close to you, if you have a good relationship there. They can say, oh, yeah, this one came directly from Megan. And, that was $1 million sale, totally justifies $200,000 because in the end, we're still making a significant margin. We built this bigger relationship with this retailer or distributor. As long as you can connect it in some way, you're good. And
Yes.
this is something that I just thought of, but if you have a report or a summary or something you can put together to show the company, the sponsor, what you did and how it helped them, that's huge. Don't
Mhm.
leave it up to them if you can do anything about it. And that could be just as simple, right? And from a grassroots standpoint, you go into their shop one day and just say, hey, I just want to give you kind of a rundown of what I saw. Do you agree with this? I talked to like 6 different people. I know 3 of them made a purchase. Was that beneficial to you? um, hey, 3 people came up to me at the show that are other businesses. I gave them your information. Was that what you needed? I had, 50,000 views on the video that that featured you. Is that helpful? And versus letting them go through and figure that out. That can be very, very helpful.
Megan, I feel like that's a time for a shameless plug for Autofluencer.
Yeah, yeah, good point. So, well, Josh, and I don't know if you've heard of Autofluencer before, but it is a fairly new software. My sponsorship programs are very heavily dependent on social media.
Hmm.
It's just something that I love to do. I started doing it when I was in college because I was studying graphic design, and it was actually a homework assignment that we had to post every week on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and write a blog post.
Hmm.
And so I just, for me, I was like, well, how could I use this for racing, So I started way early on in social media, and there was less noise at that time online. It was easier to grow. So I was
Hmm.
able to grow a substantial following, but then I never knew how to actually see the value of it. And so I have spreadsheets for the past decade
Uh-huh.
of every single social media post that we've ever done, how many views, how many engagements, how many link clicks it got, all the articles and press releases on our website,
Yeah.
all the emails that I've sent out, all of this stuff. And so I would send, I mean, like what you're talking about, what Alex Streiler calls a proof of performance report.
Uh-huh.
I would just send these pages long of, hey, this is every single social media post where
Oof.
I had mentioned or I'd tagged, this company and all this stuff. But then a few years ago at PRI show, I had met Erica, who is the founder of Autofluencer, and it was actually right after Alex and I and his son Cole, who works in AI, and he's a genius when it comes to, you know, code and development and engineering software and all this type of stuff. I was actually in talks with Cole of like, hey, I'm spending so many hours manually tracking all the stuff that I'm doing online for our sponsors. Is there like, can we make a software or is there like AI out there that could help
Uh-huh.
me simplify this? And then go to PRI show, we do this presentation, and Erica is in there in the audience. It was her first time at PRI. And she came up to us and she's like, hey, you guys, I'm making a software that will do, this stuff. It links to your social media and then it sorts all of your posts by depending on who you tag or who you mention,
Yeah.
and then it gives it an actual dollar amount. And I was like, "Oh my
That's
god," because
good.
that's
That's
exactly what
good.
I need.
Yeah.
So I have been using it for the last, about 2.5 years, and, now I am on board with Autofluencer, so I'm head of their, creator and racer strategy, and it has helped me out so much. Not only just save me time because now it's all completely automated, but it has been able to help us improve our sponsorships and get renewals and increases in funding because I can go directly to them and say, "Hey, I've done, in the last month, we did, let's say, $50,000 worth of exposure for
Uh-huh.
you on social media. This is exactly how we got it too, because we got this much impressions, this many engagements, link clicks, video views, all that type of stuff. But it adds that dollar amount to it, which I think is really awesome. And the companies that
Yeah.
we're working with and presenting it to, they're like, oh my gosh, because this makes their job easier too,
Way
because then
easier.
they're not having to go and figure out, okay, well, how many posts did they do, or which ones were actually valuable for us, or all this type of stuff. So that's what I think as I see is kind of the future of our industry, and how can we make it better for both sides, for everybody trying to work together.
I think one of the things that both of you guys just touched on is and something I learned in the corporate world just working in that space is when you go to a decision maker, they want you to just get to the point and tell them why it matters, right? And so if you're providing, Megan, you said you had spreadsheets of every single
Yeah.
post, right? Can
Yeah,
you
like,
imagine like
oh,
going up to like a decision maker, like CEO or something, giving them a spreadsheet with every single post for a year and asking them to like determine what the value is of that
Yeah.
versus going to them with just a succinct report that says, I was worth this much money. This is what you would have spent on ads otherwise. This is how it translated to traffic to your website or, purchases for your product. Bam, there it is. I am valuable, is what that says.
I
yes.
love it. And it, I've been involved with that stuff, and every quarter I get, I'm presented information from our marketing team, right, along with other folks within our group to see how well did our products do for the ads that were placed. And we look at cost per click, cost per impression, you know, whatever those different metrics are, kind of what you had talked about. They're using that to make decisions about, which ads worked, which ones didn't. We look for trends and what types of content did well versus ones that didn't go well. And then we can kind of replicate that. That's great. So I like that a lot. I knew about it, well, because you had told me, but just like a snippet, but that learning more here is that's great. Now, question, do you schedule posts with that too, or is it just, it's analyzing what's been done? Okay,
Yeah.
good, good. The reason why I say that, because I didn't want to throw something out there that was like a competitor, right? But Hootsuite, Hootsuite is a
Mhm.
platform that you can preload and schedule social media posts, because with social media, consistency is almost more important sometimes than content. So,
Mhm.
if you can post daily, great. If it's weekly, if that's all you can pull, do it weekly. But ideally, the more frequent and the more consistent, the better. And Hootsuite allows you to schedule posts and schedule content where you may be able to book it out a little bit further. So instead of doing an hour each day, or let's say you're at a racetrack all day and you can't quite get a post out, if you can schedule that 3 days beforehand, it's quite helpful. Because honestly, I mean, I learned to hate social media, like just
Yes.
despise it, because you're like, oh, I gotta come up with another piece of content for this today. And like, oh, but I gotta post it to, X, or formerly Twitter. I gotta post it to Instagram, and then I gotta post it to YouTube, and I gotta post it to LinkedIn, and I gotta post it to now TikTok. Oh, and wait. So now we're talking short form. Do I do long form and short form content? Use something that can help you with that. I don't know how much it
Yeah.
costs, but your time, if you can swing it, even at a grassroots level, it will make a huge difference for you.
So, okay, I have a question, honestly. I have seen such a huge drop in engagement when I schedule posts, even through the native platforms. Like if I schedule them through Facebook
Right.
or through Instagram or whatever, I see like those posts just never seem to do well. Do you guys see the
Interesting.
same thing? Like, is scheduling an issue? I don't know why.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
That is interesting. I think all of our content at a larger level at my company is scheduled,
Yeah.
but it's largely LinkedIn and Instagram, but
Mhm.
I honestly don't know. That's a great question.
I do schedule through LinkedIn, and that I don't notice a difference. I
Yeah,
think LinkedIn probably encourages that for consistency, but man, Facebook and Instagram, I struggle to get engagement or traction on any of the posts that I schedule.
interesting.
I used to like schedule, like I plan everything, like what I want to post, like
Mhm.
at the beginning of the month. And then like on Mondays, if I had, if everything's already finished, then I would go and schedule it.
Yeah,
But the last 2 months, I've been doing an experiment and it's working really well. So I quit scheduling in advance and I would just post directly onto the platforms, but I'm doing it through the Edits app.
Yeah.
So we're
okay.
doing all reels. So I'll only do a carousel or like a photo post, maybe like, I don't know, 2 or 3 times a month. And it's just because either we have a graphic to do. Like last week, it was McKenna's birthday. And so we did a graphics and happy birthday and all that type of stuff. Um, so there's, a few things that will be static images or carousel. But other than that, it's just all been reels.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
shout out to John Willie, our videographer, because
We love Jay Will.
he came to quite a few of our races and he captured so much content because I knew, hey, off season, we're not going to really have much to share about. So we need to have this big library that we can pull from. So that's what we've been doing and it's worked out really well for us. But I
yeah,
think because Instagram is prioritizing using their edits app. So John will make the video, he'll send it to me. I'll just do a few little tweaks or I'll add like the text on the video using edits. I'll post it to our Instagram and then I'll have it cross post directly to our
yeah.
Facebook. And then so I am really bad about engagement. Like I preach all the time. You need to respond to comments. You need to engage. You need to comment on other people's posts to drive them back to your page. And that is always like at the bottom of my to-do list every single day. So that's something that
Yeah,
like I really need to prioritize more. But so I'll post something, I'll be on the app for like 5 minutes maybe, and then, I have to go back to work or whatever.
Yeah.
It'll be like 24 hours later, like I won't even look. And I'll come back and be like, oh shoot, like this video's already got like 50,000 views or like 50 comments on it. And like I really didn't do anything to push it or promote it or whatever. So I think it's just I don't know. Like I said, I've just been experimenting with it. That's worked really well for us, and our platforms are monetized, and we've
mhm.
gotten a bigger increase in funding from Meta, which has been a really nice bonus too. So I don't know. So maybe scheduling might hurt. I think
It sounds
maybe
like it
just
does.
that
So that
might be
yeah,
the priority. Might just be like
Yeah.
kind of using their other
I
app. I
bet
don't
I
know.
bet you're right. That makes too much sense, right? Because they
Yeah.
could easily throttle, you know, posting through some other group. So now to your point, if they have this edits app that competes against Hootsuite, well, I want them out, right? I want Hootsuite out of here. Use my thing. So I'm gonna throttle theirs and,
Yep.
keep going. So
Did you see
to your point.
this week? I think Instagram was pushing out a whole bunch of stuff that said, you may have heard rumors that editing in a different editor and then posting to Instagram hurts your reach. It doesn't. You don't
Mm,
have to use edits.
Oh.
They were like publicly announcing that, which I thought was the weirdest thing because I swear to God, and I'm 99% sure that I saw that they had said previously that edits did bump up the
yeah.
reach
Yeah.
of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I swear I saw that.
Yeah, because I think that's why I
Yep.
started using the edits app because I love using Video Leap and then I use another app called Captions. And so I would use both of those and then like go to the Meta Business Suite to publish it. But
Mhm.
then
Mhm.
edits has gotten really good. So I can
Yeah,
actually, and I was paying for both of those apps. So now I can do the same thing inside edits and it's free. So that's nice.
when it's not
Yep.
Um,
crashing.
yeah.
It's always
That's
crashing, but
fair.
it's so good otherwise.
Yeah. So I don't know, but I don't know. I mean, social media is so hard. It was a lot easier back in the day, like 15 years
Yeah.
ago when I really got started like using it all the time. It was a lot easier to grow
Mhm.
and to like just do like know that like okay, I'm going to do XYZ and know it's going to get these results. And
Mhm.
now everybody's a content creator. Everybody has 10 different pages that they're running. And there's so much noise now, and all the
Yep.
apps are competing against each other so much that, like, I don't know, it's a lot harder.
Yeah, I was
But
just looking because I was thinking about how I've been trying so hard to grow the Racer on Demand Instagram page. And I was like, man, I'm finally getting some traction. I'm seeing new follows all the time. And I just looked, I'm at a
good.
whopping 587 followers. Like,
But
that's
still,
disgusting. So if you're
That's
listening and you're not
even
following,
even that's
yes.
hard to get there. So, an example, right? My company, which is a huge company, they didn't have a dedicated social media specialist for ever. And now, say that's on the, we have like a, I guess, corporate brand and then performance brand. So the performance side didn't have a great social media. So with someone dedicated for, I don't know, 6 years ish now, it still took someone full time to get, they're following up to 50 some odd thousand on
Mhm.
Instagram. Now, yeah, if you'd started uh, 10 years earlier, maybe it would have gone quicker, but it's very hard to grow those pages. You almost need a viral something to just, to get you there. Um, but I think the one takeaway is regardless of how you post, consistency for sure
Mhm.
is important. And y- you might want to debate this. I'm not sure if this is a popular opinion or not, but I would rather you post not the best content than nothing at all. If you just have something kind of a little bit goofier, like blooper reels, right? Something that
Yeah.
maybe is a little bit fun, but not fully on, you're not working the same way you would normally work. You're not sending the same message you would normally send, but it's fun. It's interesting. It's something different. I'd
Yeah.
rather someone post that, a quick behind the scenes deal, working on your car,
Yes.
versus a highly put together video shots of at a race or some amazing drone footage. Do that too, but show your show behind the scenes where oil spilled on you when you were trying to change out your diff fluid. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd rather you post something than nothing.
People want to see stuff they relate to, so if you're relating to human things on social media, like if those are your posts is like I'm a human too, look at me
Yep,
being human over here. You talked about like you almost have to have something go viral in order to get the following. I agree with that, but I think a lot of racers get stuck on trying to be viral all the time
that's
and they
fair.
forget the human side of it. Like I had a call I don't wanna give too much away because 'cause we're not working together, and I don't
Mhm,
wanna just, like, spew people's info everywhere, but, so I had a call with a motorsports athlete last week, and even though we're sponsored by Nexen Tire, we are not leaving
mhm,
Nexen Tire, but we get along really well with the people over at Kenda, and so Brandon Stotzenberg is the president of the automotive division there, and he had recommended that these people reach out to me because they were struggling to get paid sponsorships. They were kinda stuck in the nowhere land of product
mhm.
discounts and free product, and they're at a high level in a very visible motorsport, and they reached out to me, and the first thing I did after I got the email was I pulled him up on social media, and all I saw was his race vehicle and then like kind of memey kind of stuff, like just
Mhm.
memes and
Yeah,
like viral kind of stuff. And I was like, who the heck is this person? Like, I don't really
Yeah.
follow this sport. So I was like, I have no idea who this person is. And I got on the phone call with them And, I kind of listened to what they had going on. And the first thing I said to them was, I don't know who you are, and I looked you up. That's a problem. You
Oh
know,
yeah,
and it's like,
that's
okay,
interesting.
if something does go viral, like, that's great. It's gonna get a lot of hits on that one post, but if 10% of the people from that post open up the rest of your stuff, you want them to connect to
That's
you too.
very good.
So it's so important that you build your own brand with your own values, your own relatability, and your differentiation from everybody else.
Hmm.
Otherwise, when they open up your page, they're not gonna actually relate to you or engage with your stuff. And I think that's the point of consistency is I'm consistently showing who I am and what I do, and my values and my brand, so that when something does go viral, like hopefully for all of us very soon, right? Um, but when it does happen, there's actually a cushion to catch those people.
That's a great point. Um, it it brings up a couple of thoughts for me on social media. One is, I guess, kind of where I see things heading. That's definitely something we wanted to spend some time on in this show, is where
Yeah,
future sponsorship going. With social media, I think it's changing quite a bit, and even I would almost say in the last year, it's been changing quite a bit. So, yeah, there are a lot of competing pieces of content across platforms, and you can share the same content across platforms too. So people who are multi-platform users, they may see your same thing multiple times, depending on what their algorithm is. I like the idea of, we already mentioned kind of the behind the scenes, get to know who you are more. That Well, I started getting a little bit more of a following on my show when I did the live episodes.
oh
So I started
sure.
doing more live ones, and my other ones weren't, I guess, too scripted necessarily. It flowed like this conversation would flow, but I still did edits.
Yeah.
I was very professional forward, and I would go through and clean up the if there was a lot of ums or weird awkward pauses, I would clean that up, and that's what I wanted to present. When I did live videos, I was like, you know what would be interesting? I'm gonna wear a cowboy hat at the beginning of this. And there was little things where I was doing that was kind of goofier, but it was just to get somebody's attention. And I would do it at the beginning of a live show where, again, I mentioned cowboy hat. I think one time I had like in 2019, Avengers Endgame was coming out, and I had like a big Thanos, the Infinity
His fist
Gauntlet.
or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, I had one of those, and I would like turn around. I'd be backwards. I like turn around in different weird ways, but that was kind of who I am behind the scenes, right? And uh, I think that's very important. I think the future will continue to follow that. If you look
Mhm.
at television, right? I mean, the reality TV has taken off because it is more relatable. You can see people kind of raw. So I think that will be important for future stuff. Another one is the training or teaching people something.
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
think that's a big deal. There's um, that's something that my company started doing where it was rock crawling, and they were teaching you how to be a spotter while rock crawling. Because we have professional drivers and whatnot, and they would say, okay, well, first ask the question, do you want a spotter? Yes or no, right? Because some people they've been doing this forever. They don't want someone yelling in their ear. They know where to put the wheel at.
Mhm.
You have to say driver left. You have to say passenger right. You have to say things that are more descriptive. And those posts did very well because it was like interesting.
Yeah.
Um, or here's how an engine works. Let me show you this. This is pretty cool. I remember one. I'm a big fan of Sarah Price's. I actually did an episode that I said, if I could sponsor anybody, who would it be? And I actually had said Sarah at the time. But I remember a video with her, and I think it was Erica Kirk, who was her navigator, and they were doing some desert race. But she was showing ahead of time what they have to do to change over the tires. Because
Mhm.
you're out in the middle of the desert, tires inevitably pop, no matter how good they are. And she was like, "Hey, I'm half the weight of some of the other drivers. I need a second person." but they're
Yeah.
showing like, this is how we change a tire, and they're still super fast, but like they both jump out and they go, and she's got these different techniques for lifting it, and Erica's helping. I still remember that to this day because I'm like, that's interesting. I would have never thought about that. And maybe even for other, female racers that are like, I don't know if I could do desert because I don't know how well I'd be able to change this big 37-inch tire. I don't know if I can do it or not. Like, oh, well, Sarah does it and she did it this way and she's huge in this sport, right?
Yes.
So I think the training stuff is kind of cool. And then the last one is the unexpected. So
Mhm.
an example I'll give for this is, I mean, Travis Pastrana does all of the unexpected things.
Yes.
And I think I see every one of his builds because that's what my algorithms are, something unexpected. So I think about this with, in my company too, where we do a build and let's say we want to sell to a Mustang owner. Um, we don't have to build a Mustang, or if we do, let's make it off road. Let's make it just silly,
Yeah.
just goofy, something a little bit different. I could see that being, let's take, I'm an ATV racer. I'm going to put square wheels on this thing just to see what it does. I fab these things up. I did one goofy video with it. That's kind of cool. I would say be cautious about being reckless, but like
Yes.
just something kind of different, interesting, weird, kind of weird, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
I follow a lot of different like entrepreneur and freelancer stuff on Facebook, and as you're talking, I keep thinking of this one video that I saw from Layla Hermosi, Alex Hermosi's wife, right? She is this amazing CEO entrepreneur, and she was talking about friendships, but I think it relates here. She said, "When I'm choosing my friendships, I've heard that it takes 8 hours to build a great friendship with somebody. So when I'm making time in my schedule, I think to myself, would I want to spend 8 hours with this person? And if the answer is no, then I don't even bother like trying to get that relationship together. But what I'm thinking about is, would I want to spend 8 hours watching this person's content
mhm.
because that's what it takes to relate to them enough to feel like they're my friend?
Ooh,
And really, when you have an influential relationship with your followers, it's because they look at you like they feel like you're their friend, right?
yeah,
So, how do you get people to want to spend 8 hours with you and your content? And I think the points that you just hit on, Josh, are spot on with, well, people want to spend time exploring something unusual. They want to spend time learning something new that maybe they're not exposed to. And they want to spend time with people who feel authentic and
yeah.
relatable. So, I love that concept of the 8 hours idea.
I like that. That's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, just the being like the industry disruptor, like doing something that is different. So, Amanda, when we do our live podcast, I will bring my cowboy hat for you to wear.
Oh,
Yeah,
no. That's
Because we
not really
talked
my
about
brand.
this. We talked about this at PRI about doing a live show at Wheatland. And I was like, well, I'm going to take you to Boot Barn to get you a pair of cowboy
Oh, I forgot
boots.
about that.
get
Just,
red
yeah.
ones. Get red ones. Have you seen How I Met Your Mother? If not,
Oh, yes.
go watch it. He's got those red boots. Get red
Yeah.
ones.
Yes. I think they gotta be purple, though.
Oh yeah, yeah. I guess
Yeah.
you got the
I'm
purple vibe going right now. Yeah,
I'm
Yeah.
sure we can find some purple ones.
but
Actually,
stuff like that
I
though.
have purple boots.
Oh, you do?
The
Oh, there
top
you
of
go.
them are purple. You know
Wait, what size are you?
they're either 8 or 9.
Okay, I'm an 8.5, so, we
Oh
can
yeah,
make this
yeah,
work.
because I have your race shoes.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. I forgot we're the same size.
Yeah, there we
That's
go.
funny. Yeah,
There you
I'd
go.
say my last company I was at, I remember it was the first or second. I had like a Christmas party, and I wore my white cowboy hat and a suit, but it was a black suit with like a white tie and a white shirt underneath it, and
Nice.
my dad's old cowboy boots. And I mean, that was my brand for a while. I was like, oh, that's Josh. Remember him? He was the guy that
Yes.
wore the cowboy hat at the thing. And I'm not a cowboy. I'm not a farmer. Like I have no right to wear this. I just
No
like
word.
cowboy hats. I think they're awesome. And I got this one. It was like custom
Yeah.
made and just like I just like it, but I never get to wear it. I'm gonna wear it to this Christmas party, and
Okay,
it fit.
visual cues though are so important with recognizability. Like when we're at PRI, Chris makes a point. He will wear a blazer because
Yes.
it makes
Yeah.
him stand out. He has two purple blazers that he will wear because our team color is purple. And when he
Yeah,
talks to somebody, he can come back and say, "You might remember me. I was the one in the purple blazer."
it's a
And
very good point. The
yeah,
Something like that fits. I notice, especially at trade shows, bright shoes. Like if you're with a group of people, wear the same weird bright shoe because
yeah,
they remember that. And it's interesting you brought that up too, because behind you, right, is the Traxxas Slash.
yep,
And when we had met a couple weeks ago with my company talking about stuff, I was like, "Oh, you have a Traxxas Slash? That's cool. I do that stuff." Like,
yes.
and that helped me feel a little bit more connected just because it was behind you, right? And I
I
thought
have
it
to
was
show
pretty
you
cool.
this one too. Is
Oh, look at that.
Our crew guy made this for me. He's gonna be so excited that I'm showing you this,
That
but,
is so cool. Yeah.
it's custom done with the vinyl for my Beetle too, so and he
That
has
is
me in there.
super cool. That is super cool.
Yes.
But yeah, I think that stuff works. And even for things that are behind you, you all have trophies behind you. I don't have trophies behind me. But,
These aren't even mine. They're my
These are
husband's.
mine either.
it doesn't matter.
I just thought they were cool. I mean, I don't
They
have
are cool.
a trophy with a helmet on it.
They are
I
cool.
thought they were
But that
cool.
that
I
kind of stuff does make a difference. You will do video calls with the sponsors. You will do video calls with them, get a little background, whatever it may be. I'm in like my podcast studio thing, and this is just what it looks like. But I also always have a jersey. This one doesn't have it, but I have a football jersey of Tom Brady on the back of my seat at work, and inevitably somebody's going to ask me about the jersey, or they're going to ask me about this. What's that bike in the background? Oh, you wouldn't believe how cool I used to be. You know, so like that, it was little conversation starters, but
I love that. Just speaking of, like, visual cues that, like, catch people's attention and start conversations, I was told once at PRI, I met, Steven Faber for the first time. Megan, do you know him?
Yep,
He
I remember
Yeah.
him.
Yep. So he does like a girls driver development program. Is it in karting, I
Yeah,
want to
go-karting.
say?
Yep.
Yeah,
oh, that's
yep.
cool.
So I met him for the first time. We were connected on LinkedIn and he walked up to me. I think it was at the sponsorship one with Alex Stryler afterwards. He walked up to me. He's like, "I know you're Amanda Vandenels." And I was like, "I don't know who you are, because we'd never met in person before." He goes, "The shaved head." He's like, "You can't ever
Mm,
change your hair, right? Because I
Yeah,
recognize
yeah,
you from your shaved head." I'm like, fair enough.
yeah.
it's a very good point. Those things,
Yes.
that little bit helps you stand out.
Yep.
Mhm.
Oh. Anyways, I feel like we're kind of reaching the end of our steam here. Maybe we should just go to our last question here. We always ask the same one of all of our guests,
Mhm.
Josh, because I think it's really powerful. If you could give grassroots motorsports athletes just one piece of advice based on your experience across everything that you've done, what would it be?
So the number one thing I'll say is seek the no. And this applies to so many different things, it's job hunting, it's trying to get sponsorships. It could be even, losing a race, whatever it may be, you're going to get that no. And this is the big thing with sales, right? They're going to continue to seek the no because the yes will come. So be comfortable with that, expect it, and move on from it. Because your first no is going to be devastating. It is.
Mhm.
Because you're going to put this effort in, you're going to listen to the show, you're going to take all these notes, you're going to read this book, and you're going to be like, I got this. And you reach out, you have a perfect pitch. You're like, no, we're not interested. Thank you, though. Well, I suck. I'm going to give up. Oh, I did my first race and I rolled it and I'm done.
Can relate. Yeah,
Yeah,
can relate.
I'm done. I can't do it. I can't do it. Uh, it Seek to know, keep going after it, and you will eventually get the yes. Every time you get a no, you learn something new from it. Maybe they weren't the right fit. Maybe I wasn't the right fit. Maybe my messaging wasn't really aligned. Just keep trying. Just keep trying. You will get there. And everybody goes through it.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody goes through it.
Mhm.
A lot of racers, they'll ask, maybe it's 10 times and they're like, I just not going to ask anymore. I'll figure it out. Right. Just keep going.
I saw
Mm-hmm.
a statistic somewhere that basically said, you're at the price range that you should be selling your product at if you get 30% yeses. And I think about that in relation to sponsorship stuff too. Like your product might not be the problem and your price point might not be the problem. If you're still getting 30% yeses, you're doing the right thing.
That's a very good point. So I'll relate that back to I spent a lot of time in manufacturing. So everything in manufacturing has a metric. And if you were green with your metric for more than 3 time periods in a row, whether it's week to week, month to month, year to year, your goal isn't aggressive enough.
Yeah,
You know. So in sponsorship, yeah, if you're getting every one, am I more valuable than what I
Mm-hmm.
think I am?
exactly.
That's a big deal. So that's a very good point. I like it.
Yeah, I love that too. We'll turn your losses into lessons.
Yes,
So,
exactly. I like that.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Josh, for coming on. Megan, it is always a pleasure to have you as my partner in crime here,
Yes.
interrogating our guests like we have to Josh today. I feel like we went off on so many tangents and then came back with I think some powerful advice for our listeners.
Mhm.
So if you're still listening, remember we are still looking for reviews. Megan and I talked on our last episode about potentially thinking about doing like a sponsorship event in person. We have not gotten any comments about that. I really want to know, is that something
Mm.
that you would be interested in attending if we did some sort of conference or seminar or something? So let us know. And if you're not following us on social media, Racer on Demand, like I said, I am only at 587 Instagram followers. So give us a follow. Make sure you subscribe. We release every other Thursday, and we will see you every 2 weeks. But until then, we love you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.